As much as I like D5, there are actually a few basic features missing that I think might be crucial to other artists out there who are thinking about switching to this workflow or just starting out. So in this video, I'm just going to enumerate them to help you guys sort things out, and for any D5 admin out there, it would be great to have these in our future updates. And by the way, this video only covers its current D5 version, which is 3.0. Number 1. Controls over the sun is quite limited. Ideally, you should be able to control the sun color, size, and intensity all across the environment settings. But currently, this only works for HDRI mode. And this really sucks because there are times that I want to experiment with these other settings, as there's only so much HDRI skies I can work with. And also with D5's Geosky and or custom tab, you are able to control the clouds, which you can't really replicate any other way. So as much as it's a great feature, it's also such a loss that you're not able to control much of the sunlight if you use this. Number 2. D5 only has a limited HDRI control. While you do get the basic control over an HDRI sliding, strength, and hue, it lacks the essential industry standard parameters needed for proper correction. Ideally, this should include controls like contrast, gamma, curves, and color picker. And on top of that, the hue parameter is oddly limited. Like, you can only adjust either the skylight or the background, not both separately. And this is super important because as much as there are many HDRI skies out there are many times, at least in my own experience, that these skies are often overexposed when imported to D5. And unfortunately, there's just not enough parameters to adjust them. Number 4. D5 has a bit of basic material limitations. It can be tricky to get blurred refractions, like you're gonna have to work with a good bump channel for that. You also can't really use fall off or blurred maps in the opacity channel since D5 just seems to round off fading edges, and the shadows for translucency effects are not that accurate. Also, the silhouettes for translucency of cloth materials are not editable and are too sharp and inaccurate. It also only allows one reflection when multiple transparent and reflective materials overlap. Like if there's two glass planes positioned next to each other, only the front plane will have reflections. Now, I don't know how heavy it is going to be if this gets fixed, but it would be great to at least have that second reflection within that first reflection, at least to not make it too obvious. Also, there is actually no color picker parameter for the other channels aside from its base color. And this is perhaps one of the most no-brainer misses of D5. Ideally, you're supposed to have the option to just pick a simple color instead of being limited to importing maps for the other channels. I literally resorted to going to Photoshop just to make a flat colored image for a map, save it, and then import it back to D5 just to get this done. By the way, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help this channel, which is all about ArchViz modeling and rendering in different softwares. Now back to more D5 problems. Number 5. Although D5 has a few render passes you can use for post-production, it lacks some of the very important ones. There's no specular pass, no translucency pass, no volumetric fog pass, and no separate passes for different light sources. Also, there is no way to customize material or object IDs for masking. This is quite crucial, especially for artists like me who really want to up the quality, as the only way to compensate for the subtle inaccuracies of D5 is through post-processing. And without these render passes, it's just so much harder to fix them. Number 7. D5 doesn't have an invisible objects feature. Now, this is different from just hiding objects altogether, which D5 already allows, but ideally, render softwares should give the option to make objects invisible in renders while still keeping its effect in the environment. And this is important because it's a very common trick in rendering to cheat on lighting, shadows, and reflections to get a better presentation. And one of the best ways to get certain effects is by using objects that are invisible to the camera. For example, in other softwares, I like to use invisible trees to cast shadows and reflections, with that actual tree being invisible so it doesn't get in the way of the view. Now, you can actually get away with doing this by using a section cube, but it doesn't work in all situations. Better just to have an invisible object option. Number 8. D5 has a fragmented material system. There's separate material for cloths, there's another separate material for translucent objects, and another one for displacement, and so on. And this just kind of limits what you're able to do, as there are certain effects that you cannot have when you're using another material type. Now, I'm not sure how this will affect the performance, but I think it would be more efficient if we had a unified material system, a single material with all the parameters, and just prepare templates depending on how you want to use it. That way, each material will have more flexibility and more potential. Number 9. D5 has a limited fall-off control for cloth materials, and that fall-off effect is only limited to the cloth material. In other softwares, fall-offs ideally would have a color picker and a proper controller to really get the specific type of effect that you want, and you should be able to use this effect in all material channels and across all material types. But unfortunately, in D5, it's mostly just a numeric value with very little control. You can't really have this effect in other channels like the reflection, refraction, translucency, and whatnot, and you can't use this in other material types. Now, for me, these were the most crucial issues that I think really needs to be fixed, but if I'm being nitpicky, it'd be really great if they also fix these next minor ones. Number 10. D5 doesn't have a volumetric fog material. Now, I'm not sure how heavy this is going to be if applied, but it would be great to have this. Back when I was still using Corona, I'd often use volumetric objects to kind of cheat my way into making more depth for the image and also to cheat the distances of certain objects. Unfortunately, this isn't available in D5. Now, I'm well aware of the particle system available, and to some degree this actually works in many cases, but there are just a lot of limitations to its controls. Number 11. D5 doesn't have a curve control in its effects tab. Now, while D5 does have many lighting controls, it would still be very useful to have a curve parameter for fine-tuning the outputs, and I just find it surprising not seeing it in such a powerful software. Number 12. D5's object and layer panel could be better. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm just so used to being able to expand layers and quickly see what's inside. The layer tab in D5 doesn't seem to do this. There's also really no option to kind of look for hidden objects, and this can really be a drag, especially when you're working with complex scenes. Number 13. I don't know if anyone else have noticed this, but there's this subtle problem with undoing or hitting Ctrl Z in D5. For some reason, undoing an action also deselects the object you were working on, which can get a bit annoying. Number 14. D5's aspect ratio and cropping features have issues. The edit camera preview displayed in the lower right corner doesn't really match the final aspect ratio, which could have been really useful. There are also limited aspect ratio options, and as soon as you try to customize, you might find that vertical crops and customizing the resolution won't be very stable. They tend to reset as you move around, which can be a bit annoying. Cropping doesn't fully exclude non-visible areas. I wish there were an option to just show the visible parts, and to be honest, these basic things would have really helped a lot in composition, but because of these problems, I don't really see much point optimizing in the image tab altogether, and so I just have to fix them in post. Also, it would be great to have an option to lock the camera angles in the scene to avoid accidentally refreshing and overwriting it. This happened to me multiple times. Number 15. D5 doesn't have a fur material. Now, I know this might be extremely difficult because fur features in general are usually super heavy, but in the future, maybe, if D5 can figure out a way to get this part right, that would be insane. So far though, AI has been successfully able to cover up for this missing feature, and my clients are super happy. And apart from these problems, there are also minor hiccups in D5 I must warn you about, like the AI feature taking too long or not working sometimes, the new displacement feature crashing, and last time my issue in the forum was not addressed as soon as I needed them. That said, don't get me wrong, I don't hate D5 at all. I love D5, it's one of the most impressive softwares out there, and these are mere suggestions to make it even better. Now, if you think I might have missed other problems, you can put them down in the comment section to help, and maybe I can even add that in another video.